Hello, my name is Karis and today we're going to take a look at the makeup tutorial I did for my academy called Purple Haze. I'm going to begin this look by refreshing the skin and making sure that my skin's really prepped for the look. This is a glowy skin look finish, so I want to make sure that my skin's really hydrated. So I'm going to spray first with MAC Fix Plus spray and I'm going to buff that all over the skin with a Duo Fibre Real Techniques brush. Then to give the skin more of a hydrated glowy finish, I'm using MAC Strobe Cream in Gold Light and I'm going to use the same brush just to buff this all over the skin. I'm going to create a 3D brow for this look, so using soap and water I've lathered a little bit of the product into a clean mascara wand and I'm now brushing it through the hairs upwards. This is going to make my model's hair stand up and give a bit of a thicker finish. I'm a really big fan of making brows look bushy and textured, so I'm using Illamasqua Brow Cake in Thunder and also a little bit of Fix Plus spray. I've sprayed this onto a 317 angle brush and I'm drawing individual hairs all the way through the brow. I find that the Zoeva angle brush is perfect for this kind of application as it's really fine and you can actually draw individual hairs in thicker and thinner slots. So if you want to create a bushy brow, you can go in a little bit more heavy-handed, or you can create them really fine hairs being a little bit more lighter with your touch. To conceal the eyelid and create a base for my eyeshadows, I'm using Peggy Sage Luminous Skin Concealer in Biscuit. I'm using a clean 227 Zoeva brush to buff this on really lightly all over the lid. Now that I have the first part of my eye base on, I'm going to give the brows a little bit more definition and texture by adding Brown Brow Gel by NYX all the way through the hairs and across the brow. For the second and final part of my eye base, I'm using a 144 Zoeva brush with Helen E Eye Stage Base. I'm going to pat this on from the lash line upwards, so I want to apply this on the eyelid and then blend it into the concealer, and this is going to give me a really thick but really neat flat finish for the base. This is going to enable any of the shadow that I pop on top to stick really well. And as you can see, this removes all colour pigment from the skin, so it's giving me a blank canvas to work with so that when I do go in with colour, the colour's going to stay really true and bright. I'm beginning the look with the Certified Tropical palette and I'm using Firefish with a 228 Zoeva brush. I'm going to begin by buffing this in a semicircle shape just above the socket using short, circular and soft motions. To create a really bright finish to the eyeshadow, I'm going to keep repeating this process until I'm happy with the coverage. You'll see that I'll go in, pat the product on and then blend out really softly with circular motions. I also tend to take my product quite high because I like it near the brow, and I also blend it out towards the temple. I'm now going to begin intensifying the socket and making the socket look deeper by using Starling Shadow with a 227 Zoeva brush, and I'm going to buff this directly onto the socket and then mix it into the previous shadow that I've applied. You'll also notice that I get my model to look straightforward quite a lot. This is really important for me because I need to judge how high I'm going to take my blend and also whether I need to edit any of the edges and make the socket any deeper. It also helps me judge if the shape that I'm developing suits the model's features. Using my 144 Zoeva brush, I'm going to create a small island in the centre of the eye using Helen E Eye Base. I'm then going to pop straight on top of that a duo chrome eyeshadow by Makeup Geeks called Backlight. I'm now going to go in with my previous brush and just soften down the edges of the shadow. And now just using my fingers to ensure that the pigment's really stuck down to the Helen E, pressing really lightly through the centre and then out into the edges. For this look, I wanted to create a blurred out eyeliner, so I'm going to use Feline Pencil by MAC, and I'm going to buff it back and forth at the lash line and then smudge this out using a Morphe M507 brush. To stop the pencil from becoming shiny later on, I'm going to use Blackout Eyeshadow by Urban Decay and a Zoeva 322 brush, and I'm going to press the shadow directly on top of the pencil. To create the inner points on the inside of the eyes, I'm using Vivid Brights Liquid Liner by NYX in Sapphire Blue. To create more intensity with this look, I'm going to fill in the waterline using Feline MAC pencil from earlier on. Using a 212 MAC brush, I'm now going to repeat the step of setting the feline pencil by using the Blackout Eyeshadow by Urban Decay. To create a base for the eyeshadow to sit underneath the lash line, I'm going in with my Biscuit Concealer by Peggy Sage in the Luminous Silk Concealer range. I'm going to use my 144 Zoeva brush, and I'm going to get this as close to the lash line as possible. To ensure I have a smooth finish with the concealer, I'm using a clean 227 Zoeva brush, and I'm going to buff this directly over the top of the concealer and make sure that there's no lines from the previous brush, and buff this into the skin so there's no visible seams. To get a really intense finish underneath the lash line, I'm going to use my Starling shadow, also with my 322 Zoeva brush, and I'm going to begin by placing the product on and then slowly buffing back and forth. I'm going to keep doing this until I'm happy with the coverage. To blend out this shadow, I'm going to use Firefish as we did on the top of the eye, and I'm using a 227 brush which is clean. I'm using back and forth circular motions, and I'm going to join this up to the shadow that we did at the top. For the iridescent highlight on the inside of the eye, I use a 238 Zoeva brush and Peaches and Cream pigment in Pearl. I also use a 228, which was clean, and buff this into the temple and also under the brow bone. To add a glitter sparkle to the front of the eyes, I used Urban Decay Heavy Metal Glitter Liner in shade Distortion. This is my new favourite brush for foundation. This is by Real Techniques and it's called the Expert Face Brush. I'm using foundation in shade Barcelona by NARS, which is called NARS Sheer Glow. To ensure I get a flawless finish with my foundation, I always go over the top of the foundation once I'm done using the brush with a damp beauty blender, which is by Real Techniques. I prep my lashes off camera around 5 minutes before. I always apply my glue to my lashes a few moments before I actually want to apply them, allowing the glue to go tacky. I just find that it's easier to fit these bigger lashes on when the glue's a little bit more dry and a little bit more stickier. These lashes are by a company named Eldora in the style M112. Because I've created such a full coverage finish with the foundation, I've taken away any natural colour that was in the face, creating just one shade all over the skin. I'm now going to add back in the warmth to the places that I want, which will be the cheekbone, the nose, the forehead and jawline, using a matte mineralised powder in Dark Tan. For this powder, I like to use a MAC 150 brush. once I'm happy with the amount of warmth I've created with the mineralised powder, I'll use a Kat Von D contour palette with a 168 matte brush and begin to intensify the cheekbones, the forehead and the jawline. To create a subtle nose contour, I'm going to do this in a reverse way where I use setting powder on each side of the nose to create a little bit more of a structure. I'm going to use Laura Mercier setting powder and a white flat edge sponge to do this. I'm also going to use the same technique underneath the cheekbones. As I don't want to create an overly matte finish to the skin, I'll use a Zoeva 134 brush and lightly dust a Laura Mercier underneath the eyes. And my favourite brush to dust away the powder is a 126 Zoeva brush. To add more warmth, I'm using Modern Mandarin Blusher by MAC Cosmetics and I'll apply this to the high points of the face. To create a nude skin tone shade, I'm going to use the concealer that we used at the beginning of the makeup, which was Biscuit in Peggy Sage Luminous Silk. I'm going to buff this on with a 227 Zoeva brush and then apply number 19 Kiko Gloss directly on top. For mascara, I'll be using my current favourite, which is Stack Mascara by NYX. To complete the look, I will finish with MAC Cosmetics Fix Plus Spray. This will give a glowing finish to the foundation. Thank you for watching my tutorial. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button and also follow me on Instagram on my account, which is creatives.makeup.academy.